Last week, someone messaged us for the link like 10 minutes after we were done.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so maybe someone will hop in with us.
Yeah, let's hope so.
All right.
Plenty to yell about, that's for sure.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot going on. Come on in, everybody. Share the link if you would. Welcome back to another Tennessee Holler Hour, Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're here at 2 p.m. with you. The goal of this, we'll keep saying it, is for you to jump in and holler at us about the things that you want to holler about. So message us for the link either on Twitter or on Facebook, and we will send you the link and you can jump in and tell us what's on your mind. This is the Holler Hour. This is for you. In the meantime, follow all the hollers all throughout the state. These are possible because you guys subscribe and chip in. It really, really helps. Go to tnholler.com. Chip in monthly really goes a long way. It's how we've been able to bring in all these haulers. And also subscribe to get our emails. Twice a week, we put out emails with all the links and videos of everything that's going on in our state. And it's a really good way to keep up with everything. We try to make it fun and readable. We don't over email you. So subscribe at tnholler.com. Cassie, how you doing?
Doing pretty well. I just voted this morning. I was just telling Justin, so I feel like this weight has been lifted off my shoulders somewhat. It was definitely a cathartic feeling that's been building up over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So those of you that haven't yet, get out there. Early voting runs through October 29th, and the wait wasn't all that long. I went to the Ag Center because of the nice, it's kind of got an open space there. Just for COVID reasons, I felt a little more comfortable, and yeah, it was. I feel really good. To have voted, and for our incredible local candidates. Like I voted for, Marquita Bradshaw was on my ballot. It'll be on your ballot too if you're in Tennessee, of course.
Yeah.
Here in Sripata, here in the 7th District, he's fantastic. And Sam Bledsoe is my state house candidate, and he's awesome. So
yeah, let us know if you voted. Let us know if there were lines where you are. We've been seeing all the awesome pictures and videos of lines all throughout the state. We've been trying to amplify those. Yeah. Because it's just great to see all the lines. It's a hopeful sign. We never really know how it's going to go here in Tennessee just because, we're a unique case for some reason here. But, long lines is a good thing. And, there's certainly a reason why voter suppression exists because they really don't want people voting. So get out there and do it. If you haven't, make a plan to do it. It would be great. Some not so good news, though. Hospitalizations are up. The COVID is spiking in Tennessee. And, that seems to be something that Governor Lee is ignoring even while he's in quarantine, which is pretty wild. I'm going to go ahead and play the video that, I think you and I both shared this week. This is Governor Lee. Oh, for some reason, it's not coming up. Anyway, Governor Lee was hunting and, he seemed to. Oh, that's why I have all my links in Safari today. Not that you people care about that. I made a mistake. But yeah, Governor Lee is off hunting, doesn't seem to care what anybody else is doing but himself. And it's really ugly. What did you think when you saw him hunting, Cassie?
Oh my God. I just thought of how callous it is. Like, it's completely tasteless. Like I understand like if you are quarantining, like you have to stay sane in one way or another, but just the fact that he's the leader of our state. We've seen him going across the state. On one side of him will say, wear a mask, masks save lives. And the other side of him, is not actually wearing them himself when he's at these big events. He's photographed, parading around the state without a mask, and then, has to quarantine because one of his staff members got COVID, and then, post this video while people are struggling to breathe across the state in the ICU because of his complete policy failures. Just that they've piled on top of each other in his.
Let's just watch this really quick one.
No better place to quarantine.
Oh my God.
Tree stand in Tennessee.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Hunt, like, great. But, the idea that you're going to post that and like you're living the life while hospitalizations are up. And not only are hospitalizations up, but now we know because of a FOIA request that the White House had asked for a mandate to be implemented, and he's not doing it and wasn't going to tell anybody. He's completely ignoring the White House. And meanwhile, hospitalizations are up. People are dying. School-age kids, it's spiking with school-age kids also. So, this is just a failure at the national level, but also on the state level to take this seriously. And people say, okay, well, we don't want to shut down again. That's fine, but there are still things that we can do. A mask mandate is one of them. And, this billboard, oh no, that's the wrong billboard. There's a billboard up in, I don't know where this is, but it says, if they can't protect the White House, how can they protect you? And this is, they're not protecting themselves. How can they protect us? And this is what's on the ballot, right? I mean, this is what we're voting on.
I mean, you can imagine, like, the anti-science strain that Trump has really, like, doubled down on throughout his presidency. I mean, we're going to be dealing with those ramifications for a long, long time. Like, say what you will about past presidents. I could go on and on about the horrible things that other past Republican presidents have done, but, at least they didn't, like, demonize, like, viral, like, scientists, like Fauci has been under how many presidents? Like, I think he's worked under several different administrations, but it's only, under the Trump administration that he's started receiving death threats and has to, like, run with a security detail now. And that strain, like, trickles down to, I mean, we wouldn't be having the same problem if the leader of our country was actually wearing a mask and would put forward scientific, policies and try to double down on, like, solving this as much as we can. And that trickles down to our leader, like, more local leaders too, like Bill Lee and a lot of the anti-mask GOP here in our own state that has cost lives.
Right. This is not a Republican-wide problem. This is this strain of republicanism that has basically taken to vilifying Fauci now. He called Fauci a disaster recently. He said in a camp call with his campaign staff, as CNN put it, he closes his campaign by insulting Fauci for telling the truth. I mean, this has become his closing argument, that Fauci is an idiot. He called him a disaster. And, then he stands at his campaign rally and says this nonsense about CNN simply for covering this atrocity.
And your state is doing great with a pandemic. You're getting tired of the pandemic, aren't you?
He's still acting like it's not a real thing. He had it. 220,000.
And does he still, like, I still haven't seen him say, like, I haven't seen anything from the White House about a negative test from him.
Yeah, apparently he had one since, but they never told us if he had one before that debate, and he just decided to, wait out the clock on that. But then here he keeps going.
Getting tired of the pandemic. You turn on CNN, that's all they cover. COVID, pandemic, COVID. You know why? They're trying to talk everybody out of voting. People aren't buying at CNN, you dumb bastards. They're not buying.
I mean, imagine for a second being somebody whose loved one died of COVID, watching that.
Yeah.
It's so insensitive. It's such an erasure of everything that's going on. And it's not popular. This is not some brilliant political strategic move to act like this isn't happening. 75% of the country wants a mask mandate. People want to take this seriously. Mm-hmm. And what he's doing is actually making this last longer and hurting businesses and the very people that it's just so counterproductive in every way. And it's sort of desperate. Like, it's the only chance he has now is to just hope that if he acts like it's no big deal, everybody else will too.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because he's managed to have that be his strategy from the very beginning, because that's all he knows how to do. If there's something that's happening under his watch that is unfavorable, he just, like, tries to, double down and blame someone else and make it through the next news cycle. But of course, this has been going on since March, and he's still, pursuing the same strategy. And there are people in this country who are crazy enough to believe him. But as you said, the majority of the country, doesn't want that type of response. They want a mask mandate. They want, reasonable responses to this. And hopefully that'll be enough to get this guy out of office, because, I mean, the dangers of having him as president, just, the list is infinite at this point.
It's wild. And speaking of dangers, we've seen, we've seen it spike here with school-age children. It's a very real thing that's going on here. Schools have closed because of it. And then this past week, in Rutherford County, Susan Keener, who was an educator who worked with special needs kids, she caught COVID a few weeks after schools opened, and she died. She was otherwise healthy and she died. Her funeral was just on Sunday. Haven't heard anything about that from Governor Lee. Haven't heard anything about that from Penny Schwinn. You know, that's a really big deal that a teacher who was forced back to school in person because of what was going on here lost her life to this disease. Don't tell me that that's not a real thing. Don't tell her family that that's not a real thing. It's very real. And her family and the people around her and the people she works with deserve to hear from Governor Lee and Penny Schwinn about that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't know what like how you can be the type of person that would ignore something like that. I mean, obviously it's more politically expedient for them to pretend that it didn't happen, but it's sick. It makes me sick. And I mean, Gloria Johnson, you know, one of our amazing state legislators, she was calling for more protections for our teachers from the very beginning when schools were going to be reopening. And she was calling the same thing, you know, people are going to die. This is going to cost teachers lives. And here, it was incredibly predictable. This is exactly what has happened. And I just really want to hone in on, this was preventable. Like, all of this is tied back to bad policy or lack of policy. Like, this is tied back to decisions that Governor Bill Lee made or didn't make, because he really hasn't been doing anything.
Right. It's about not taking it seriously. And, you know, I've been going on this Fox Nashville show, which I'm sort of two minds about because it's a Sinclair show. And, you know, I feel like part of the problem a little bit, but also it's going to happen no matter what I do. Somebody might as well be on there telling them what's what. But every week I go on there, some different Tennessee Republican is telling me that masks don't work, that masks aren't necessary. Michelle Foreman, Scotty Nell Hughes, Carol Swain, they all, you know, there's a parade of them that go on there and talk about how masks don't work. And it's still happening 220,000 deaths later with teachers dying. It's so ugly. And, you know, frankly, I think we really need to stop platforming these people. You know, I wouldn't let somebody come on here talking that talk. I mean, if they wanted to jump in the holler, they could, but I wouldn't intentionally have somebody come on here knowing that that's what they're going to talk about, because, you know, it's just ugly and dangerous and it's got to stop. And that's what's got us to this point.
Yeah. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, you know, in the meantime, we've felt it here in Tennessee. Our economic drop has been stark as any other state. That's us in the dark red, along with Nevada and Hawaii, because of tourism, most likely. And, you know, it's all these things are tied together. It's not like they're taking this their lack of seriousness is actually helping. It's not, it's hurting because it's elongating the problem. And, you know, this is not an easy situation, but we can definitely draw a direct line to our worst outbreak in the world and their refusal to take this seriously. You know, we're now at a point where we're voting. One other thing that I wanted to talk about, because I've seen it become an issue, is this thing that, have you seen 50 Cent's Instagram post about the tax brackets and the tax rates? This is 50 Cent, the rapper, talking about the tax brackets. He says, what the fuck? Vote for Trump. I'm out. Fuck New York. The Knicks never win anyway, which is true. I'm a Knicks fan. But he says, I don't care that Trump doesn't like black people. 60%, 62%. Are you out of your fucking mind? Okay, so let's break that down for a second. 62% top tax rate is not Biden's plan. It's very misleading. Biden's plan is very different. Biden's plan is for the federal income tax, the top federal income tax bracket, to rise from 37% to 39.6%, which is what it was before Trump's tax cuts. But people need to understand that a progressive tax rate means that your money doesn't start getting taxed at that level until you cross that threshold. So up until then, it is not. And the threshold is $400,000. So if you make anything less than $400,000, your taxes are not going up under Biden.
Right.
50 Cent may make more than $400,000 now. I don't know. I'm not sure. He probably does, because he's a producer and he owns some other things. So, you know, his money over $400,000 may be getting taxed higher, but it's not getting taxed at 62%. The reason that those tax brackets are that high is because the state taxes are higher in those states. And if you add them to the federal level, they're up at that level. So Biden's tax plan is not to raise your taxes to 62%. It's to leave your taxes alone and raise the taxes of people who are making over $400,000. And to do that, and when we do that, we can then pay for things like healthcare, like a climate plan, like infrastructure. So raising the taxes on the people who make more money is a way to pay for things that help people who make less money. And personally, I think we need more tax brackets in this country, not less, because I think there are people who do make $400,000 in a place like New York who feel middle class. That's not making millions and millions of dollars. So we shouldn't have people who make $1 billion a year getting taxed the same as somebody who makes $400,000 a year.
Right.
We should have more tax brackets, because what it does is it allows people like 50 Cent to use those people as a shield. And, that's what they're really doing. They want to get grouped in so they can use those people who are making a good amount of money, but maybe not more money than, Warren Buffett as shields. So it's important just to be clear about what's actually happening.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a tough thing to like conceptualize sometimes, I think, because someone who's making, as you said, someone who's making $400,000 in New York City, like that's completely different than someone who's making that amount of money in North Dakota or here, in most other places. However, if you go up even from there, I mean, the wealth concentration in this country, and I know you and I both agree on this, is just obscene.
Yes.
But it's hard for us to conceptualize what even like someone who makes way more money than that, like $1 billion, like the billionaires that we have in this country, we don't really have a concept for what that is. So, when people say that like billionaires shouldn't exist, or we need, that money has literally been like, you can't earn $1 billion. Like that money has literally been extracted from the working class. Like that person has that money because it has been taken from someone else. They didn't earn it, because nobody even needs that amount of money. It's insane.
Right. We've now come to a point now where like the average worker makes so much less than the CEO, and you say extracted, and people who disagree with us here, but they earned it. But no, they've tweaked the knobs so that money spills into their pockets rather than the average worker. And it's made it so that the middle class has disappeared, so that people who work 2 jobs still are sometimes on the government dole. And that's coming out of our pockets too. So when you don't have a middle class, and when you have people who work full-time jobs that still can't support themselves and are on food stamps and are on Medicaid, that's corporate welfare. And what these policies are trying to do is adjust the dial so that it comes back into balance. It's out of balance. Nobody's sitting here saying taxes shouldn't be a thing. I mean, there are people who say taxation is theft or whatever they say.
Yeah, libertarians come on here and yell at us.
Yeah, they say that to us, but at the same time, it's also how we pay for things and how we take care of each other. And what 50 Cent is doing there is exactly what Fox News does, Hannity does, which is they say they want to tax you this. But they're treating you like you're the same as a billionaire, or you're the same as somebody who makes a lot of money.
Right.
And I think what we need are more tax brackets, not less. We need to make it so that people who are making, $400,000, then there's a $10 million, then there's a $20 million, it should go higher, because, the higher you go, the more you should be taxed. I mean, a progressive tax code is how it should work. So anyway, bottom line is 50 Cent, and the idea that 50 Cent is going to say, well, I don't care if he doesn't like black people, I'm worried about my taxes. I mean, that is deeply problematic. And frankly, I think he's telling the truth about that.
Yeah. It's so problematic. And I think that it really erases like just how inextricable like how inextricable class and race are. I mean, like you can't extract those two things from each other. So if you're making an economic argument about something, it is always tied to race and vice versa. And so like, when you talk about like sort of universal programs like Medicare for all, like that sort of program does not on its face like have a racial agenda. However, it would disproportionately help Black people, other people of color, non-white folks, because those are the folks who have been most severely impacted by our poor economic policies over the last, since our country was founded, essentially. Right. We've been fighting against that ever since. So I think that, if he says, oh, well, the policies that he's advocating for, if he's supporting Trump. So he's supporting Trump's policies, which include just the incredibly unfair tax cuts that were the Paul Ryan tax cuts that were passed, when he was still Speaker of the House, a couple of years ago. Those that were horrendous, and they disproportionately hurt, the Black people,
right?
And economically hurt them.
They never talk about the other side of it, which is where this stuff is going and the people that are helped by it. It just makes it sound like the government's taking that money and then going and having a party, and that's what they want you to think, because it really helps rich people for you to believe that. And so, 50 Cent is doing their bidding. Just want to read a couple of comments here. Andrea Keith Kenny says several different studies have been done that prove masks at a minimum reduce viral load, which can predict how sick you can get. That's a good point, because when I was on Fox Nashville, Michelle Foreman brought up that study, or not study, I won't give it a credit for being a study, but the CDC had a poll where they asked like 150 people who had COVID if they wore masks, and 75% of them said they did. But what Andrea is saying is important, because you can't ask the people who died of COVID if they were wearing masks. And, you're asking people who survived. And if they were wearing masks, maybe they survived because they were wearing the mask, because it reduced the viral load.
Right.
And 150 people, what can you really tell from that anyway? So
that's nothing.
These are the numbers that they're throwing out there, that they're throwing in our faces to say that these things don't work. Russell says in the Upper Cumberland area of Tennessee, you can compare the rate of infection between counties that have mandates and those that don't, see a difference. You can even see a clear decrease in 2 cases 2 weeks after they were enforced. Yeah, I mean, and the one thing that nobody can tell us is what's the downside of doing this, other than, this civil liberties bullshit. Like, you have to wear underwear and clothes when you walk outside or you get arrested. Like, is that civil liberties? No, there are certain things that we accept that we have to do to be a part of a civil society. Wearing a mask to not kill people is another. And, especially in this state where everybody acts like they want to consider themselves pro-life, to refuse to wear a mask to save each other's lives is the height of hypocrisy.
Yeah. I mean, like, are these same people, I know this is kind of a silly argument to make, but are these same people really pissed off at having to like wear a shirt and shoes into a
Right.
store?
Exactly. That's 100%. No, that's not a silly argument. That's exactly the right argument. And they don't have an answer for it.
Right.
A couple other things that I want, by the way, speaking of 50 Cent and Ice Cube, here is Ice Cube's picture of him and 50 Cent at a basketball game, I believe, or I don't know where they were. I think at a basketball game. Eric Trump took it, put the Trump logo on each of their hats, and acted like they were rocking Trump hats, which is completely absurd and ridiculous, and shows you how low this group will go, and they're not to be trusted.
Always.
Yeah. Speaking of logos on clothes, this has happened in Memphis. This is a poll worker was fired for turning away voters who were wearing Black Lives Matter gear. They were saying it was political, but you're not allowed to wear political gear, but Black Lives Matter is not on the ballot.
No. And it's not like, of course it's like a political, it's a movement, but it's not associated with a political party.
Right.
And you can make the argument that everything is political. I just voted this morning and I have my Gideon's Army shirt on, and I was wearing like my Sunrise Movement hat, both of which, well, at least Sunrise, organizes directly with electoral, candidates and things like that. But it is technically a nonpartisan organization. Anyway, bottom line, Black Lives Matter is not tied to the Democratic Party or any other party. It engages politically, it has political goals, but it is not part of any party. So you can 100% wear Black Lives Matter. And I encourage people to wear Black Lives Matter stuff.
What I am going to be interested to see is though, because we just had Nashville, right? Black Lives Matter. They did a mural in Nashville, which is awesome. On the road, people already were, I guess, putting skid marks on it and trying to hurt it. But I did see now that they've applied, I guess, for a permit or whatever to have Blue Lives Matter written somewhere, and also Make America Great Again written somewhere.
Oh, great.
I'm curious how Nashville is going to handle that. I don't know. Like, it almost seems like they kind of have to.
Oh man. That's really frustrating. Have other cities had that same issue?
I don't know. I don't think so. But it does present an interesting dilemma. Like, you let them do that. Do you have to then let anybody write anything anywhere? Like, I wonder if that's just a can of worms that they've opened up. It's possible.
I don't know. I mean, I would like to say that, of course, that the ideology ultimately matters. You can say that these things are tied to political, goals, whatever, but what is the message behind them, and what do you want to be representing your city? But I don't know. It is definitely a can of worms situation.
It does feel like a can of worms. So we'll see what happens there. I'm not entirely sure. A couple other things. This is something that I wrote. This is the Tennessee Republicans canceled Glenn CASADA. Williamson County voters should too. That's in the Tennessean on Sunday. We also put out a video of it. I really hope Williamson County does the right thing and votes out Glenn CASADA. There are other options on the ballot. I'm friends with two of them, so but I definitely want to see anybody but Glenn CASADA voted in. And, it's just going through those videos. It's so incredible how awful this guy is and how many things he's done. I mean, I almost forgot some of that stuff. The racism,
there's such a laundry list.
The racism, the cocaine, the, perversion, the lying, possibly framing Justin. It's really, really ugly stuff. Again, I see Charisse. Hello, Charisse. If you guys have anything you want to holler about, hop in and join us. We are going to have an election night special on election night where we're going to be here talking about results as they come in. We're looking forward to that. Definitely make a plan to join us. Have your TV on, have your laptop open, join us for that. We'll be having, candidates and people who win hop on with us to talk to us that night. So I think it should be good. Cassie, Charisse wants to know how you're doing. So why don't you go ahead and answer that?
Oh, hey, Charisse. Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. As I said earlier, I voted this morning, which was awesome. Definitely felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders that have been building up for 4 years.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, my birthday was last weekend, really fun. I actually went. Oh, thank you. I actually went and camped on an island one night this past weekend, which was really fun. I kayaked out to an island on Percy Priest and camped out, which was a lot of fun too. So, yeah, Charisse, if you want to hop on with us, if there's anything you want to talk about, I'd love to hear about how you're doing. And if you've had a chance to vote yet, I see you've got a Biden-Harris profile picture, which is awesome. So if you want to talk about your experience or anybody else, feel free to DM our pages and hop on with us. And we'd love to chat with you.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I just want people to see this is the former Republican Party chair, Michael Steele, who has come out today. This is the Lincoln Project. I know I get some heat from sharing Lincoln Project stuff, but this is Michael Steele saying that he, the former Republican Party chair, is supporting Biden.
Republican, and I'm still a Republican. But this ballot is how we restore the soul of our nation, electing a good man, Joe Biden, and a trailblazer, Kamala Harris, and ensure an orderly transfer of power, or plunge our country into chaos. America or Trump? I choose America.
So I know, I catch some heat for sharing Lincoln Project stuff, maybe deservedly so. There may come a time down the line where Lincoln Project is keeping people from having health care and somebody says, aren't you?
That's what they've been doing this whole time.
Yeah, well, it's true. But I still maintain that the main goal here is to get rid of this Trump guy, and then we can deal with the rest later. And, I feel like it's effective to see the Republican Party chair telling us that he's supporting Biden. I mean, to me, that's effective.
I wish I would see more leftists. That's all I got to say.
Oh, I want to see it too.
Let's do both. If you want to do some
project,
sure.
It's not.
Not from them, but just from Biden, considering Kasich for a position in his administration.
I agree with that. I agree.
Where are the leftists?
And it definitely does signal, that Biden is going to end up being disappointing in a lot of ways, probably. And I'm sure that's true, and I don't deny that at all. But he's better than Trump, and we got to get rid of Trump. And even if the Lincoln Project is one big grift, they're doing a lot of good work. And, I frankly wish other people were doing the work that they're doing because it feels important. And, at the end of the day, the thing about all the work we do, including the work we do, you never know what's working. You never know what's having an impact. You just have to do it all and hope that it works out in the end. So, I don't really fault them for what they're doing. And, I'm just grateful that anywhere we can have people join us. To me, the conversion stories are really important. David Weissman, who we had on last week.
I agree with that. Conversion stories for sure.
Yeah. And it sort of builds a bridge, and I don't know. So that's just how I feel about it. I'm not trying to claim that I understand where people are coming from that have a problem with that way of thinking, but that's just how I feel.
Sure. Yeah, I just got a little distracted because I saw something really cool that I just uploaded. Someone messaged us this on I think it was on Facebook. They've got their Holler hat with an I voted sticker on it. So send us pics of that. I would love to see more of that. That's fantastic.
That's very cool. Russell says, Lincoln Project is scary brilliant in their ads. It'll be bad when it turns against policy efforts. That's how I feel too. I've just managed to put a really long ellipses between the first part and the second part. And I'll deal with the second part after November 3rd. That's how mentally I feel about it. But I completely understand what you're saying and agree. I also tend to think they were probably going to have an impact over what happens next anyway. So, the idea that they made a few $1 million off of some Democrats, and
which is insane though. That money, I really like people who are donating to them instead of donating to local organizations.
Yeah, don't do that.
Don't do that. Do not donate to the Lincoln Project.
Especially since
I give you a list of so many organizations.
Yeah.
The Holler, donate to us. Don't donate to them.
Yes, we should grab that clip of you telling people to stop donating to the Lincoln Project for the Holler. No, but I completely agree. And also because, our video background, I know how much it costs to hire an editor to sit there and make some videos. It ain't $40 million. You know what I mean? There are some really good editors that will do a lot of the work that they're doing for cheap. I'm sure they have an office somewhere with 30 of these people. It still ain't $40 million.
And these are
do
the
it for 3 months. They're not even come November 3rd, it's over.
Right. These are the guys that also profited off of the military industrial complex, from going into Iraq, during the Bush years. So these guys are already insanely wealthy, so don't give them any more money.
Well, and by the way, just as a plug on our way out here, because we'll wrap up pretty soon, but one thing that I think everybody should do, high recommend, subscribe and listen to this podcast called Blowback. It's about the Iraq war. And my goodness, I'm sufficiently pissed off about the Iraq war anyway, but to hear these guys outline all the different lies that were told and the way that they dress, in some ways it almost makes it doesn't, I'm not saying this, but it almost makes Trump look okay in comparison, because these guys lied us into a war that killed hundreds of thousands of people and are walking free. And Trump's a horrible human being and is a criminal, but he absolutely did not do that yet.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying he's good people, but I am saying the idea that we're whitewashing the people that you're talking about, even the Lincoln Project people to some extent, but Rumsfeld and Cheney and Bush and we need to remember how ugly it was what they did. That I see that you just put Blowback Show up. I would love to have those guys on sometime.
Hell yeah.
They did an incredible job on that podcast and it flies by. So you really should listen to that. And yes,
I would love to hear them do the same thing for Iran Contra, during the Reagan years.
Yeah. Or anything. Those guys should just do history lessons.
Yeah. It's fantastic. I want to echo exactly what you said. It's one of the best podcasts that I've heard probably all year. Everybody go listen to Blowback Pod. And we need to remember, this is kind of how I think about it. Trump is horrible. Bush was horrible. Dick Cheney was horrible. All of these people that have made these decisions are horrible. The thing with the Lincoln Project and Trump is that Trump is more mask off conservative. He's no different than I shouldn't say no different. He has a different flavor of how he goes about things, but substantively in the things that he's done, he's really not different from Bush, but he's more in your face about it. He's mask off.
Right. Because the agenda is not his. The agenda
exactly
is to him. His agenda is how much money can I make while I'm in office for myself personally. That's his agenda, and he joked about this whole thing about, if I wanted to, I could call Exxon and say, oh, you want to drill, but just give to my campaign. And Exxon,
which also don't praise Exxon either.
I'm not praising them. I'm just saying
not you. I've seen other people.
He admitted to, a crime. And does anybody really think he doesn't do this? Of course he does this,
right.
And he admitted it. And that's why they said this didn't happen, because it's completely believable that Trump has been doing this all along, just saying, if you want this contract, donate to my campaign. That's what's been going on. It goes on with foreign entities also. Everybody knows that if you want something from this guy, go stay at his hotel, feed him money, go become a member at Mar-a-Lago, all that nonsense.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he's absolutely horrible, fanning the flames of racism, making it worse than it was. But I guess my underlying point, which I know, you and I talk about this all the time, is that it's a continuation of this really destructive conservative ideology that has been destructive for a long, long time. And, folks like from the Lincoln Project were part of that, but they just don't like how mask off it is now. So, tying ourselves too closely to them, I think, is unwise. But yeah, so go listen to Blowback is the ultimate point.
Also, I have listened to a few Through Lines, and then definitely, keep up with us. We'll be here on election night. We'll also be here every Tuesday, Thursday, 2 p.m. And, we want to hear from you guys wherever you are. Go out and vote, support the candidates. Now's the time. 2 weeks is going to go by really, really quickly.
Oof.
And I don't know what's coming, but I'm hopeful. And that's all I can do right now.
Yeah, same here. Go get out and vote. Vote early, please. Yeah, do it while you can.
Early. All right, we'll see you guys on Thursday. Tomorrow, we're going to have Tori Harris on for an interview. He's running in Memphis.
He's awesome. Bye.